Welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm Pete Mezzetti. It's Town of Old Saybrook night tonight on the Pete Mezzetti Show, and with me to discuss what's going on is the first selectman of the Town of Old Saybrook, the most honorable Carl Fortuna.
Good evening, Peter.
Good evening, sir.
Good to see you.
How are you?
Is this a new setup?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
I feel like it's a lot farther away.
I know.
New
I
chairs.
thought we were a lot farther away than we used to be.
New chairs.
Yes.
Yeah.
New
No,
chairs,
very
new
nice.
table, new rugs.
These are beautiful studios, and
Yes.
I tell people what a great resource Valley Shore Community Television is.
Okay.
For meetings, Pete Mezzetti Show, of course, the monthly updates, and it's just, I mean, it's an amazing studio.
Yes, it is.
I mean, and the lighting and the equipment and the people, they're wonderful. So thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming down. All right. So from what I understand from doing my research for tonight, is we have a new DPW director.
Yeah. So Larry Bonin retired. Larry Bonin had been Public Works Director for 20 years or so. And circumstances were right. He had reached an age where he was pretty much ready to go, and Larry decided to retire. And Bill Claffey was his second in command, but for a job like DPW Director and many other jobs, we don't just give the job to the next in line. We do a search, and we did. We published a search out there. We interviewed 3 or 4 candidates, including Bill, and we found that Bill not only had the appropriate experience, but was just the right guy for the job. And that is the God's honest truth. It's not just me interviewing for that position. It's several other people in the room making sure that we get the right guy for the right job. And Bill's been with the town for 20 years already, 17 I think, and he did an excellent job while Larry was on administrative leave. And Bill will do an excellent job as DPW director. He's doing a good job up at the transfer station. And by the way, all the nice things that I've said about Bill takes nothing away from what Larry Bonin did.
Okay.
Larry Bonin was an excellent DPW director for 20 years in the town of Old Saybrook. He dedicated most of his adult life to the town of Old Saybrook. So I've thanked Larry publicly, but I want to thank him again on your show. And one other thing I'll mention to you, and for the viewers, this Saturday at, I think it's 1 to 5 at the Elks in Westbrook.
Right.
If you know Larry Bonin and you want to say thank you, you can come by. $25 a ticket.
All right.
And you can say goodbye to Larry and have a couple appetizers and maybe a drink and say goodbye to Larry Bonin.
Wow.
We're having basically a retirement party for him. So this Saturday, so we're shooting this on a Monday.
Correct.
And so this Saturday, I think, would be January 27th at the Elks.
Yes, that's correct.
Elks in Westbrook from 1 to 5. So, Pete Mezzetti, I expect to see you there.
Will Carl Fortuna be there?
Yes, of course I will.
Of course
so, we're in the middle of budget season, and Larry's party is from 1 to 5, but from 8:30 to about 11:30, we actually do a budget session with the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen. We meet on a Saturday and we talk budget.
Well, that sounds fun.
So I know, it's fun. Saturday, but it's the middle of the winter.
Right.
And, I thank all the volunteers. The Board of Finance they're elected, but they're volunteers. And I thank them for coming out on a Saturday, but we get a lot done. We get a lot done. It's a morning session. We give them a little coffee, we give them a few bagels.
There you go.
And we get a lot done in the morning. We've been doing this for about 5 years, where we all come in and we discuss probably like 7 or 8 department budgets.
Okay.
And it gets us a long ways towards the final product. And this year, this year the final product will result in a budget, but the mill rate, we talked offline about reval.
Right.
And Saybrook had revaluation as of October 1 of 2023, which will affect the taxes on July 1 of '24.
Right.
And we estimate that our mill rate will go from about 20.48 to somewhere in the 15 level.
Okay.
15
Sure.
and change. So as you can imagine, Pete, with the price of property these days and the demand for property, the price of houses is way up here.
Yes.
And when the price of houses goes up and the grand list goes up, the mill rate comes down.
Right.
And so that's what's happening this year. I know my house that I live in went up 45% in value from 2018 to 2023. And that gets reflected in the mill rate.
Right.
The budget isn't going to go up an excessive amount. The budget will go up 2 to 2.5% like it always does,
Okay.
like it typically does. I shouldn't say always. But the mill rate will come down because the grand list is growing
Right.
by 40 to 50%.
It's going to go.
And that's what happens. But anyway, so we're doing the budget meeting in the morning, Saturday, and then in the afternoon, Larry's
party.
Larry's retirement party.
There you go. Now, how?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Now, how is the budget looking for the town?
Yeah, I mean, the schools are coming in at, I think, around 2 to 3%. My budget on the town side is probably coming in at 1.5 to 2%.
Okay.
So, it's not an atypical budget year. It's pretty typical. We have always, one of the strategies we've tried to employ is the long game. And we've really tried to avoid spikes in the budget.
Right.
And I think we've done a pretty good job at doing that. And this year will be no different. If we can implement large projects over the course of 2 years,
All right.
3 years, we try to plan for that by putting some money aside this year, money aside next year, and then by the time we get there, we have the money.
Right.
Good example of that,
Yeah.
2 or 3 years ago, we had a culvert blow out on a road called Beaver Dam Trail. Beaver Dam Trail, ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
There's about 20 houses on Beaver Dam Trail. It's just a little road. It's a dead-end road
Oh, okay.
off of Schoolhouse Road. Well, we had horrendous rains. It was Tropical Storm Ida, and we had horrendous rains, and a culvert collapsed.
Okay.
That's going to cost $2 million to repair. $2 million. It serves 20 houses. It's not a big culvert, but the cost of repair will be $2 million. We got a grant from the state of Connecticut
Okay.
for 50% of the end cost. But the end cost is $2 million, so the town, for a very unexpected event, still needs to get $1 million. We need to come up with $1 million.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
So we're going to do that over the course of 2 or 3 budget years.
Okay.
So at the end of the 23 fiscal year, we put $500,000 in an account so that we can pay for that culvert when it comes due. And this year, we'll put another $200,000 to $400,000 in that account off budget, so that when we finally go out to bid for this project, we will have our money
Right.
squared away and ready to go. And we got a state of Connecticut grant, like I indicated to you, that will pay for 50% of the costs. But still, we need to come up with $1 million, and that's a lot of money.
Nobody's got $1 million hanging around.
That's exactly right. So you have to plan for these things,
Right.
and really, that's what we try to do.
Yeah.
So, and then the legislative session is coming up too.
Okay.
But what do you hear about the legislative session?
I'm not hearing much yet. I actually had our local state representative on not long ago.
Who's that?
Chris Anaskovich.
Oh, Chris Anaskovich, of course.
I had Chris on with me. and
Yep.
He's like, we're getting ready to go into the legislative session. He's like, it's the short session this year,
Yeah.
so. But it's also a re-election year for those.
It's a re-election year, so they want to be careful, right?
Exactly.
They probably want to give money away, is my guess, if it's
Yeah.
a re-election year. But yeah, I mean, the big thing that is going to come out of this session for me as a person representing a municipality is they're changing the way we tax motor vehicles.
They are.
Yeah. So they want to go to and it makes sense, a manufacturer suggested retail price. So if you buy a car,
Right.
and that car is worth we'll say $40,000.
Okay.
That car will immediately go on I think it's a 15 or 20-year amortization schedule where it will decline in value by 5% a year. All right?
Okay.
So the state of Connecticut wants to implement that with this session. They're probably going to do it. The way we currently do it is we value that car.
Okay.
So we value it based on fair market value, which is very different than just having it go down 5% a year. Give you an example, during the COVID pandemic,
Right.
what happened to used car values? They skyrocketed
Skyrocketed,
up.
went up.
In a case like this, with the new law, that won't happen. They will continue to go down. So in the town budget, it caused an aberration
Okay.
because used cars, technically, or not technically, usually decline in value.
Right.
I have a 14-year-old car. That's going to decline in value. But during COVID, when you couldn't get a new car and everybody was looking to buy a used car,
right.
the prices went up. So on our grand list, we had this artificial increase in value of vehicles. So the state of Connecticut said, we want to avoid that in the future. And the way to be fair to everybody is to just say, your car will go down in value from the value at which it is currently at
Right.
every year. And it probably is a very fair way to do it. I just want to make sure that the town of Old Saybrook,
Yeah.
and of course every other town in the state, we don't want to lose money with the new system.
Right.
And every time our good state legislators start doing something where they start messing with our taxes,
Right.
we lose money.
Right.
So, motor vehicle taxes are a very significant part of town revenue.
Correct.
And statewide, it's about $1 billion in car taxes that are raised by municipalities. So when you start messing with the formula, that can have a huge impact locally
Right.
on the mill rate. And if you're not going to have it on the car tax, it's going to go on the property tax.
Right.
And we have the most regressive property tax in the country here in Old Saybrook, here in Connecticut.
Right.
Probably New York is right with us in terms of the property tax and its regressive effect on people who own houses. So anyway, that's a long way to say that I get a little nervous when state legislators start messing with a portion of the revenue that we are going to raise on a local level.
Would you mind sticking around for another segment?
I'd be happy to.
Okay. We'll be right back.
You matter.
You matter.
You matter.
And your words matter too.
Your words matter.
What you say in the hallways at school or in the student section at a game matters.
Words can be hurtful.
Words can be offensive.
Words can leave scars.
Words can also inspire.
Support and uplift.
You and your words.
Are they both important?
As a matter of fact, yes.
Come on in.
Welcome to Short Things.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show.
Hello and welcome to Arts and Entertainment.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm Pete Mezzetti, sitting here with the illustrious first selectman of the town of Old Saybrook, Carl Fortuna.
You're very nice.
See? I can't believe it. This is probably the nicest you and I are to each other
Yeah.
tonight.
Off camera, it's very different.
Yeah, off camera, all bets are off. So I understand we wanted to talk about the Chili Festival that's coming up in Old Saybrook.
You have that. So the Chili Fest is the first Saturday in March.
Yes.
Do you go to that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Chamber runs an amazing event. Judy Sullivan.
Yeah.
That is a Chamber event. They get about 30 Chili Fest folks who make wonderful chili, if you're into that much chili.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of chili.
Yes, it is a lot of chili.
But it's a fun day, and as you know, people are itching to get out of their houses
By that.
time of year, you
Yes.
know, and whether it's cold, whether it's warm, whether it's a little rainy, people are just they're good to go.
Right.
And I think it's like $10 or
Something like that.
$15 or something, and it's a fundraiser. They I think donate the proceeds partly to high school scholarships.
Yes. Yep.
So it's a great job, and the amount of people it brings to Main Street Old Saybrook is staggering. It's just one of the prime events of the spring, late winter, early spring for the town of Old Saybrook. But the prime event, the main event, is Celebrate Saybrook,
Yeah.
which you didn't go to last year.
No,
No.
it's in June.
That kind of hurts my feelings, you know?
I'll be there this year.
All right, you should be.
Yes.
And you should bring a film crew.
Okay, we could do that.
So this year it's going to be June 23rd. Last year was our inaugural event.
Okay.
And it was a huge success. We probably had 5,000 to 10,000 people. We had a lot of people.
Oh, man.
And we planned that event last year in
Right.
about 3 months.
Ooh, oh, man.
We were struggling to get food vendors, we were struggling, but it ended up being a massive success. This year, we started planning it immediately after.
Right.
And we did a doodle poll to make, to ask people how they perceived the event, what could we do better. And so this year's event, assuming good weather,
Right.
there's no rain date for this.
No.
But assuming good weather, I think we're going to have a huge crowd. We're going to do great publicity on it. We already have probably 20 food vendors, lots of food trucks, lots of crafters.
Right.
We're going to have at least 5 bands. So we're going to have 2 bands on the main stage. And then we know where the new brewery is going in,
Yes.
Thimble Island.
Yes.
On their patio,
Right.
we're probably going to have some more acoustic acts.
Oh, cool.
Maybe 3 of those. Last year it was really hot.
Yeah,
And
I
people were
remember
like, it was a little too hot. They were getting sunburned and stuff like that. So, you pray for good weather. And when you get good weather, people are like, too much sun. But if
Yeah.
you had bad weather, people would be like, where's the sun?
Exactly.
But if we have a very hot day, one of the things we're either going to buy or we're going to rent is what they call a mister, a mist.
Yeah.
So it'll throw
It'll
water
throw a cool
water
mist.
mist, a
Yeah.
cool mist,
Yes.
and you'll be able to walk through it.
Cool.
Yeah, so, and we have tons of stuff for the kids, and that'll be on June 23rd of this year. It's a Sunday. It'll be from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Okay.
And the band we had last year to close the event
Yeah.
was a band called Soul Sound Review.
I've
And
heard of them.
We had people dancing. They're like 10 guys. They got a horn section, tons of Motown music. Just a blast. So I'm really excited about this year's event. We have our main sponsor is From You Flowers. Yep.
Never heard of them.
Full disclosure, Pete's an employee of From You Flowers, but that is not the reason. I happen to know. I don't want people to think you have anything to do with it necessarily. But the owner, not the owner, one of the owners of From You Flowers, Mike Chapin, is gracious and generous enough to put forth a fairly large chunk of money to pay for most of the costs of the event. And then we get vendor fees. Our vendor fees, we charge about $100 if you want to come vend, and we get $5,000 or $6,000 from that. And it's an awesome event. So I would just remind people to circle it on their calendar. Don't go away that weekend and come to celebrate Saybrook. One other thing I want to mention, a couple other things, but people, by the time they view this show, will have heard that the town of Old Saybrook had a referendum Monday, January 22nd, which is tonight. And the purpose of that referendum is to try to figure out how the town of Old Saybrook can better attract and retain police officers. So attracting and retaining police officers all over the country is a problem right now.
Right.
And our chief of police does a very good job. But the town of Old Saybrook is desperately low on police officers right now. I mean, we have 17 or 18, and normally we have 25. And this is true all over Connecticut. And so what we're trying to do is figure out how to best attract and retain officers, and to determine also whether, in fact, we have a problem in town with the way our department is set up. So it could be that police officers, we've never really had a full police force.
Okay.
Because police officers come, they leave, and we're always struggling to make sure we have 25 cops.
Right.
And we want to know why. We want to know whether, is the department too small? Maybe police officers don't feel they have an opportunity for advancement. Do they not want to be in a small town, Old Saybrook? Maybe some officers want a little bit more excitement, you know? Not that there's not excitement in Old Saybrook, there is sometimes. We just had an exciting event over the weekend.
Yes, you did.
Everybody is okay, thank God.
Good.
But we want to make sure that and it could be benefits, it could be pay and benefits.
Right.
You know, are we offering a competitive salary? Are we offering competitive post-employment benefits? So this study is going to, if it passes tonight at the referendum, I'll know at 8 o'clock tonight. And if it does, we're going to try to figure this out so that Chief Spira has the best department he can possibly have. And when he hires a cop, that cop hopefully will be there for the long term, because that's what we want, and that's what any community wants.
Right.
They want police officers there for the long term. So, and that is tonight. And maybe next time I come on, I'll have a little bit more to talk about with regard to that, if it passes. Yeah, a couple other things going on
Go
here
ahead.
and there. You
Go for it.
go for it.
Go.
So we're doing a study on Mariner's Way.
Yes. We talked about that last time you were on.
Yeah, and that study is moving along. We finally got our market study on that. I haven't looked at it in depth, but we really want to take a look at that area of town to make sure that we can develop it and find, how do I say it? I don't want to say stores or retail, but whether it's housing or whether it's demand for goods and services, we want to make sure that what we put out there is the best product we can put out there. You know that area of town, Pete.
I do.
That area of town has been underutilized, underdeveloped. There's buildings everywhere.
Yes.
But a lot of them are either empty. There's one large piece of property that's empty. So we're just trying to look at a better way to make that a more robust area of town that throws off tax revenue for the town and serves our population in the best way possible. And we're also doing a study in Town Hall. One of the things that I opened myself up to is we want to make sure that when people come into town hall, they are getting the most efficient service, and we want to make sure that we're doing things the way we should be doing them.
Right.
So I've been in office 12 years plus,
Right.
and I've made a lot of changes.
Okay.
I'm in a little bit of a bubble in Old Saybrook. We have 169 towns in the state of Old Saybrook.
In the state of Old Saybrook, you have 169
oh boy.
towns.
In the state
How
of
about in the state of
Connecticut?
Connecticut, you have 169 towns.
Well, pretty soon, everything will be Old
if you're going
Saybrook,
to have
right?
169 towns in the town of Old Saybrook, you might want to call Joe DeLong and let him know.
I deserve what you just said. I deserve it.
Yes, you
okay?
do.
All right. But we have 169 towns. Everybody operates their town hall kind of the way that they feel like they should, right?
Right.
And so what we did is we brought in an outside consultant to
All right.
take a look and take a look at the way when people come in and get a service, or the way we're doing our with our administrative help.
Okay.
Make sure we're using them most effectively.
Okay.
To make sure that our workflow, so we talked about property taxes earlier tonight. So property taxes, the building office, the fire marshal, the tax assessor, the tax collector, the town clerk, they're all intertwined
Right.
in tax collection.
Right.
So are we most effectively operating our town hall to make sure that that people are getting the most bang for their buck,
Yeah.
and that people in town hall are in effect optimizing the way they're working? And we're doing a study. I know that sounds like consultant speak, it sounds like government speak, and it is. But taxpayers pay for a service.
Right.
And we just want to make sure that we are offering the best service. So we hired a consultant to look at town hall.
Carl Fortuna, we're out of time. So
We are?
We are. I want to thank you for coming down. Hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Thank you for listening to
Oh, absolutely.
me going on about government.
Oh, absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Not a problem. On behalf of Carl Fortuna, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks, good night, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Pete.